This war. War never changes. As the gravel wars raged on between reliable excavation and demolition, and the Builders League united, an unlikely friendship was brewing. Despite all odds, a blue soldier and red demoman was slowly forming a lifelong friendship behind the backs of their employers. Upon the discovery of this, the elusive administrator demanded that the friendship be ended and for a scheme to be formed to turn them into rivals. Both the soldier and the demoman were confronted and asked to betray the other for a supply of new custom-ordered weapons, with an additional added prize of an extra weapon for whoever came out on top. December 10th, 2009, the war officially began. The American soldiers of the blue and the Scottish demoman of the red began their attacks. In order to fuel the war, recruits were asked to participate in a propaganda contest for the reward of a unique hat. Things got so dire that the people were encouraged to even craft their own weapons to join in on the fight as well. The war became so large it spread to 2 new locations that had previously been untouched by even the gravel war. The war lasted only 1 week, but within that time, over 6 million demoman and soldiers were killed. What started as a beautiful friendship had now taken a turn for the worst.
Demoman! Soldier! Demoman! Soldier! That soldier's a bloody spy!
Hey ho, my name is Ihasnotomato, the only person deranged enough to put TF2 historian in their resume. I don't suppose anyone is looking to hire someone with such qualifications. But yes, indeed, my fellow humans, today we will be discussing war. But not the sad, bad, real ones, but rather the fun and uplifting fake one that happened in that one game that one time. Somewhat of a sequel to the Sniper vs. Spy update, except this time the feud belongs to the demoman and the soldier. What exciting shenanigans these 2 goofballs got up to in the horrific, blood-soaked war that we affectionately refer to only as the War Update. Let's jump right in at the start of not day 1, but rather day -2. Yes, I know what I said. You see, I like to start with -2 because I like to achieve far below acceptable. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that on December 7th, 2009, a small patch was put out correcting a few insects here and there, but also secretly added some new announcer voice lines teasing this very update.
Warning! A friendship has been detected. You cannot hide anything from us mercenaries, and now you will pay the price. Friendship ends in 10 seconds.
Obviously it's not much, but imagine how cool it is to suddenly start hearing these voice lines in game with no warning or idea of what they meant or why they happened. Now that is how you do a teaser. Leave your audience dumbfounded, confused, and afraid. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out because after that, nothing happened for a few days. So let's skip ahead to December 9th, or as I like to call it, Day 0. After a literal 2 agonizing days of waiting at last, we were treated to a single blog post simply reading, "Attention employees, friendship ends in 1 day." And from here we got to see the first few pages of the War comic. The first real time, in my eyes at least, that the TF team really started leaning into making comics. Those were the days. Wish they'd make more, or just one more. But here we see what is essentially the inciting incident for this update. You see, 6 months ago, the red demoman and blue soldier met at a weapons expo and ended up becoming the best of friends. This disturbs the administrator greatly, not just because the 2 teams are together Romeo and Juliet style, but because of the fear that they may end up talking about herself, the administrator, and what is going on exactly behind the scenes. From here, they contact Saxton and Hale to supply them both with weapons and incite a healthy competition. Now, the comic cut off there for now, but I gotta say, This was some amazing juicy content back in the day, not only from all the fun Easter eggs and world building, but this would actually mark the very first time in TF2 history that we would ever see the Administrator and the reveal of Miss Pauling in her beta form, which is well, she kind of looking But enough with the foreplay, let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into day one. On the 10th of December 2009, the war officially began. But what exactly was the point of this war? Why should we, the reader, care? Well, it comes down to this. As you may or may not know from the following previous class updates from watching my series on it, you did watch them, right? No? Ah, that's based. Anyway, you would know that each class has only gotten 3 weapons each from their respective updates. And the same goes here. Both the Demo Man and the Soldier would be getting 3 brand new weapons that would serve as their very first unlockable weapons in the game. That was assured. But what wasn't assured was the final prize. You see, we were promised that whoever would win the war would get 1 additional weapon on top of their new 3. And the loser would be stuck with whatever they got and nothing more. And this was beyond exciting. Nobody knew what the secret final weapon would be, nor who would win it. That would be up to us. We, the drivers, would determine it with a new in-game system. You see, on this day, a patch went out to add these brand new HUD elements on screen. It looks something like this and would appear if you were playing as Demo or Soldier, showcasing how many soldiers or demos you personally killed with your respective class. And this was how we were able to vote for our preferred class interactively. Personally, I always thought this was a genius idea and way to get the community involved in this decision. Not by a Twitter poll, or a YouTube poll, or a straw poll, or a poll, but by actually having players play the game. This counter would persist throughout the following days until the update went live and would accumulate to the update page to see who was winning each day. It was such a sweet thing to be a part of. Speaking of which, occasionally I get asked, what's the point of me making this series when any other Joe and or Schmo can just read off the wiki page? Well, it's because I was there, lad. I can tell you things you won't find on no wiki browser, I can tell you that. Which segues into my next segment. You guys ever watched one of my videos, don't answer that, and saw my stats and went, wah-hey-ho, what's with all the demo damage and time, boy? I thought you said you ain't play the Demo No Man. Indeed, Demo Man is probably in truth my least played class, but these extraordinarily buff numbers are a direct result from this update. You see, despite the TF team warning us that we couldn't and shouldn't cheat to buff the numbers, well, you know, it's like telling a rat not to eat cheese, you know? So, of course, what people would do is that they would go out of their way to create custom-made community servers and maps specifically designed to abuse this system. What it essentially would be was an empty room, where either red or blue team would spawn. Here they would be continuously given infinite health and ammo. In the middle of the room there was this hole in the ground where the other team would spawn. Basically, you could just stand there for hours shooting into this hole and getting infinite kills on whatever class you liked the least or most. I'm pretty sure bot kills wouldn't count either, so players would willfully volunteer to be annihilated for the cause. And as I'm sure you've guessed, I would stand here for hours doing this, and I'm pretty sure I may have even left it overnight once, though I'm not 100% sure on that. And that is why my Demo Man numbers and hours are grotesquely inflated. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, everyone. Oh, and one last thing. You may think I was on Team Demo Man during this update. In reality, I really didn't have a preference. At the time, I liked both classes equally as much. I spent quite a bit of time racking up kills for Soldier as well, it just didn't end up being nearly as much in the end. It's as simple as that. On day 2, already 1.5 million soldiers in Demo Man were killed. But it wasn't enough. The fires of war needed to be stoked some more, so today the TF2 team announced the Propoganda contest. This was a contest for the community to showcase their creative side by making posters in support of their favorite class in the war. The top 3 winners of which would receive a special one-of-a-kind item that was even named after them. I won't reveal the winners just yet as the contest only just started, but I'm sure you are asking, I hope, Liam, you're a grubby little artist, aren't you? You even animated that distracting little eyesore in the corner. Did you join in? Well, my fictional little character, I was 13 at the time. I don't know, man, I had school. But yeah, that was all that really happened on day 2. Not the most exciting day in the world necessarily, unless of course it was your birthday, in which case, merry birthmas, little character. I'll think of you occasionally, maybe. I don't know how to end this, but... Yeah, so we got a weekend update here. There was just one new page to this update between December 12th and 14th of 2009, but they did make 2 rather noticeable things. We got the second part of the comic, where we get to follow Saxton Hale as he jumps out of a plane, some boring talking or something happens, and then he beats the crap out of some hippies. First of all, I love how this part of the comic changes styles a little to mimic the action hero comics of the era. Additionally, this is the first time we properly saw our good man in comic form, giving us such classic lines as,
Tell those men down there you can climb to a safe altitude. Me, I'd rather get down there and tell them myself, with my bare hands.
and
If this sensational issue doesn't stop your adrenaline-gorged heart for 5 entire seconds, I will send you a notarized certificate confirming you do not exist.
and
Hup hup hurrup, flawless roll. Mr. Bidwell, how did my landing compare to yesterday's? Be frank with me now. I'm made of stern stuff.
Tears were brought to the eyes, sir. Your breakfast steak, sir.
It's the most important steak of the day, Bidwell.
and my personal favourite for some reason.
There's probably no time!
This comic explains how the weapons that Saxton sends to the war for the demo and the soldier were to be destroyed before a Senate investigation with something to do with a poor monkey, and from here we can find a hidden link. Yeah, it's just a fun little article about the fan favourite monkey, Poopy Joe. May he rest in peace. But on this page we can see some of his old possessions, including a pickaxe, a giant sword, and a tiny bugle. Curious stuff indeed. Also, if you are familiar with TF2's future history from this point, this page kinda confuses the TF timeline, but anyway, I did say this day brought another special thing, and that was crafting. That's right folks, this is when the oft underutilized crafting system came to the game. And look, this was a big deal at the time. As with the introduction of the drop system before, players were starting to accumulate weapons they didn't need, so here was the solution. Now, I don't recall there being too many recipes at the time, but the main one that got everyone stark raving glad was the classic of crafting 3 refined metal into a single brand new hat. Which might not sound that exciting to you now, but remember, the only other way to get a hat at this point was through an extremely low chance at a random drop. So this was game changing. Now, instead of praying for a hat to drop, even if you didn't get one, you could still work towards it. However, there was one small catch. I'm sure you're all aware of how metal works, yeah? 3 rec make a ref, 3 scrap make a rec, and 2 weapons make a scrap. Well, that wasn't quite the case back then. No, instead it was 3 weapons to make a scrap, which might not seem like a lot, but it added up fast. Essentially, to get 1 hat, you needed to have no less than 81 weapons. And remember, the only way you can craft those weapons is if they're all from the same class, so you're likely to have a handful of extra weapons as well. So even though hats were more accessible than ever, it was still a task and a half to get them. But hey, I did it. I remember being so excited for the days when I had finally saved up enough metal for a new hat. Those were the times. Anyway, so that was both day 3 and 4. At last, day 5. World's easiest class slightly ahead, huh? Hey, they said it, not me. Today, another part of the comic was revealed to us as we got a glimpse into the quaint life of the Demo Man. We get to see his loving mother, his $1 million mansion, his family's history of missing eyes, and his real name. However, it's not long before Miss Pauling arrives at the door and showcases the Demo Man his new weapon, the haunted Eyelander, which instantly cuts off the head of a statue. In exchange for this, he is told to kill the blue soldier, and is told not only are there more weapons, the soldier apparently also agreed to the deal. But oh yeah, speaking of weapons, they hit the damn ground running today with the reveal of the first 2 weapons of the update, giving us both the Eyelander and the Chargin Targe. I mean, I guess you can't really have one without the other, but oh man, this was exciting. As you can probably guess, the TF2 team were leaning hard into the idea of subclasses at this point, practically asking us to embrace Demo Night with open arms. And we did. Of course there were no boots at this point, but it didn't matter. Seeing Demomens charge and fly around the map with friggin' guillotines chopping off heads all over the dang joint was enough to inspire a generation or something. And looking back, the Eyelander has stayed pretty much the same since then, whereas the Chargin Targe has seen a whole lot of nerfs. Mainly nerfs around the explosion damage resistance, but did you know that not only that, but it also made you immune to your own explosion damage? Wacky stuff. It's seen a lot more changes as well as the years have gone by, like gaining a full-on afterburn immunity that was eventually nerfed down to a mere fire resistance. But in my opinion, the most curious change comes from the fact that at one point, for whatever reason, they decided to change the Chargin Targe to no longer have team colors, but rather just be a static orange? And they never updated the backpack icon with it to boot. Yet another question that'll come with me to my grave, I guess. At this point, it's going to be pretty cramped in there. At last, on day 6, it was the soldier's turn to shine, and naturally we get to see a glimpse into his quaint little life. In this issue, a man in a trench coat comes to the soldier's house and flashes him. You see, much like the demo man, the administrator offers Soldier the same deal. But oh no, he ain't going down without a fight, even with those horrible and definitely truly said harsh words. But even though Soldier's will is hard as iron, even he falters at one word. And look guys, I just want to take a moment to say, I know I kind of rushed through the comic, but that's only because it truly is worth a read yourself. Seriously, if you're a fan of TF2, I think you owe it to yourself to read this if you haven't already. Heck, give it another read, why don't you? I had a blast rereading it for this vid. Also, I'm not a library. Yet. Anyway, much like the demo man, the soldier of course is going to receive 3 new weapons, only this time we are currently only privy to one. The direct hit, baby. Oh yeah. One of the beautiful things about the direct hit is that it has been once again virtually untouched in terms of changes. Other than the odd bug here and there, this baby is almost identical from the day we got it. It's also a weapon I suck at. Hard. Like really hard. But that didn't stop me from using it. Oh no, nothing can stop me from being stupid. Not even me. I've always loved the sleek design of the direct hit. It really feels like it came from the same factory as the rocket launcher, you know? Only thing that's always bothered me about it is that I've always wanted to use the sight. I know it wouldn't do anything, but I want it. I want. Anyway, there are still 2 other links on this page. One leads to the TF2 store page on Steam where they were having a free weekend. Remember, this was before the game went free to play. And also merch was dropped to commemorate the efforts. Personally, I've never cared for this kind of stuff. It's just kind of tacky and money grabbing. Anyway, here's the Soldier t-shirt I bought back then. Not bad, huh? But yeah, that's day 6. Day 7, and we can finally see the end is in sight. But today was no slouch in content because firstly, today the Propoganda contest winners were announced. That's right, only a week after it was announced, it was over. And here we can see the big 3. In 3rd place we have Do the Right Thing by John Freeman.
John Freeman.
In 2nd, it's That Blue Devil by Amber's Rad as All Hell item. And finally, in 1st place, Give 'em the Boot by J. Axe's Dapper Topper. These fine characters were all awarded points to the war depending on what side they supported, and of course a one-of-a-kind personal item just for them. But what were these items? Well, they were these. Uncle Sam, Amber's Rad as All Hell hat, and J. Axe's Dapper Topper. Now, if these hats look familiar to you, then you're right, because these are alternate versions of a modest pile of hat, a noble assessment of hats, and of course the iconic towering pillar of hats. But those peasant versions would have to wait another month or so before they became publicly available. For the time being, the 3 winners would get to enjoy their 3 unique hats in peace. But let's not forget the runners-up. There were many of them. So many, in fact, I'm just gonna let them scroll past. Everyone did a super great job, and it's so cool to see so many people get recognized despite there being so much style and experience difference between them all. It truly feels like it was a contest that anyone could have entered, and in my eyes, these posters are what encapsulate the update, which is why I included them in my little intro animation. But yeah, I know it's been like 13 years now, but I still want to congratulate each and every one of you. But as awesome as all that art was, we can't forget that today also introduced us to not 2, not 1, but 3 new weapons. Firstly, I want to talk about the buff banner, an item that I personally feel like is still underused to this day. I love the dichotomy between the soldier and the demo man here, by the way. The demo man gets a set of items to help him go solo Rambo, and soldier gets an item that encourages sticking together and teamwork. Once again, this is another item that has seen practically no changes. It's crazy to think about how solid these items are, especially something as potentially broken as this. Well, okay, I'm sure they nerfed it a little bit in terms of stats and numbers and whatever, but my point still stands. Next up is the Scottish Resistance, another underrated weapon in my eyes, as well as being somewhat of a relic of how Demo Man used to be played, as a more defensive trap setting oriented class. I know today's demos are always on the move, but for the stay at home demos, this was just a ticket. But that's a story for another day. And hey, once again, a weapon with no major item splitting changes. Why, it's almost as if I'm leading up to something obvious. What's the next weapon again? Oh yeah, the Equalizer. Alright, so I don't know what you kids nowadays know about this bad boy, but what you are seeing here is the original Equalizer. No, this isn't the escape plan. I didn't make a mistake. This, my pickaxe enthusiasts, is the original Equalizer. Its effect was simple. The less health you were on, the more damage and speed you would gain. Interestingly, as I was going back through my old video covering the update back in the day, it appears as if it had no downside. I guess they thought that losing health was in itself a downside. I don't know. But yes, for a long, long while, this, my friends, was the pinnacle of soldier weaponry. You wouldn't find a soldier worth his helmet without one. Nah, this baby had it all. Until it didn't. As surely you all know by now, in 2012, the Equalizer was split into two separate identities. The Equalizer took on a new look while the newly formed Escape Plan took on the original. The Equalizer now only does the damage side of things, and the Escape Plan is on the run. And with this fractured separation, they also gained proper downsides at some point, so that's nice. Anyway, these days, the Equalizer is generally seen as the better of the two halves of the same coin, but I personally never find myself using either of them, not while knowing what was lost. Remember, it was in its original state for 3 years before it split, and so it's been hard for me ever since. Don't get me wrong, I think the change was definitely warranted, oh sure, but still, one can't help but remember. But with that, my friends, we move on to day 8. And hey, it's release day, hooray! And don't look, there's a couple of new maps. Almost forgot about these, didn't you, huh? We got both CP George, which is the good original one, and CTF Double Cross. I remember spending a lot, and I mean a lot of time on these two maps during this update. Well, mainly Double Cross, but my point still moderately counts. To be honest though, I'm pretty neutral on them. Aside from the nostalgia, I can't really say I feel really strongly towards either one. I don't know, what did you think of them? You can tell me in the comments, or heck, even the whole update. How was it? Oh, hold up, before you answer that, we got one more major thing to cover. As this, my friends, marks the end of the war. The kills have been tallied up with a grand total of 12,779,044 total demos and soldiers killed. The winner of the war is the soldier! As if it was much of a surprise. Yeah, unfortunately, while the battle was close in some regards, soldiers started off with a steady lead and stayed there for the entire duration. Not to say that the demos didn't put up a good fight, they were right behind the soldiers the whole time, they just stayed there. Well, regardless, to the victor go the spoils, and well, here it is, folks, the gunboats. Ever wondered why only the soldier has the gunboats and not the demo? Well, it's because they fought a whole dang war over them. And I gotta say, I kinda respect that it stayed this way the whole time to honor this update. Still though, I do love that these really could have gone to either party. But in the long run, I'm glad they went to soldier. Personally, I feel that soldiers rocket jump a little bit more often than demos sticky jump, but I don't know, that could just be me. But hey, what do you think? Knowing what the item was now in retrospect, who would you have voted for, I wonder? Also, pause on a side note, just going back to the comic for a sec here. Remember those 3 cases in the demos part of the comic? Yeah, hi. Ihasnotomato, a longtime player and longtime nitpicker. What was in that giant case? We saw the Eyelander case here, the Chargin, Targe, and Scottish Resistance here, so what's in this one? Even considering it could have initially been the gunboats, this case is way too big for that. So I ask you, what's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the And with that, I don't think there is much else to cover, really. I mean, both Demo and Soldier got their own specific achievements, but that's part of the course of these updates now. I mean, I don't know, they added jiggle physics to the Pyro's chicken hat, so yeah, there you go. Best update. But yes, indeed, that was the history of the war update. And it was a diddly of a doozy. I mean, I've been writing for 7 hours straight now and my neck really hurts. But it was worth it to relive the old war and take a trip down memory trench. Again, I'm legitimately curious, what did you think of this update from updates past? Did it add some of your least or most favorite weapons? Who would you have voted for? Let me know by sending a telegram to Yo Mama's house and or the comments. I don't know, man, I'm not a YouTuber, leave me alone. As for the 9th update in this series, we will be covering the 119th update, because things make sense, okay? And I should mention, it's a sizable amount smaller than this update, but I'm sure that won't stop me from taking a million years on it. Anyway, once again, I've been Ihasnotomato. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, Yo Mama got him again! How does he keep doing this? Holy frick, dude! Okay, I'm done.